各位线上的好朋友，大家好，欢迎收看全民开讲终结假案系列。全球国家形象 NBI 2021年排名揭晓，德国蝉联5年第一，人称民主灯塔的台湾名列第33，仅低于集权国家。消息曝光后掀起热议，长期以来台湾税制不透明，缺乏公平正义，少数流氓官员对太极门人权迫害超过25年，重创台湾国际形象。国际专家学者质疑，台湾民主法治尚未摆脱威权，尤其奖金导致贪腐问题。奖励金制度是戒严时期的产物，没有法律依据，但每年都会为此编列预算，而且开出错误税单，并不会受到制裁或惩罚。不良的税务体制毒害全国百姓，造成许许多多的税灾户，让人民苦不堪言。接下来我们来听听税灾户悲惨的心声。
国税局要整你的话，它很简单，他就来查你的税，你就完蛋了。
金额总共是1650几万，一张单子就跟你讲，你欠税的金额就是这些。
政府就一直的追税，追到现在，我必须要缴7000万的税，为了告诉我已经缴了4000多万了，我几乎对这个政府失去信心了。财政部的酷刑，财政部的恶劣，财政部的不守法，比任何人更加可怕。阮为着台湾人民的生存，这个财政部的革命，我死了要有阮囝继续，阮囝搁死，我要有阮孙继续。
国税局他突然给我来一个，总共加起来是1亿1000多万的这个税单。我为了这个案子我连续6个月都没有办法睡觉，好几次都想从我住的9楼跳下去。当时的财政部次长张胜和跟他陈情，他说我如果不罚你，你会跟那些继承人勾串。我继承人都跑光了，我还勾串什么？而且这个案子是你们国税局申请法院指定的呢，我还跟他勾串，我等于帮你们解决问题，你还反咬我一口，这是什么心态？这个我认为他讲出他心里的话，他就是把人民当贼。
我就这样子就被罚100多万。那个造成我大概有10年的困扰吧。这个对我来讲，我是一辈子都不服气。
对我这一生最大的打击呢，就是我们国家的税务法，先把人民打到地狱然后再让你慢慢的减息剖析这样的方式有人说我还敢扛多话，没有自杀真的是奇迹。
我买卖不成立，结果国税局把之前的税全部加在我身上。我一路上就这样子没有人生，我诉求无门，我得了忧郁症，现在又得了癌症，他们还给我税单要我缴税，我已经没有钱了。100多万对我来讲已经是很大了，我已经没有办法。我20-30年我都没有工作，我一直生病，为了这个税，他们就拿了一把刀架在我脖子。你叫我要怎么活下去？我在死亡边缘，国家还不放过我，救救我！我20几年，我已经撑不住了，国家还要跟我要钱索命呀！我要人民给我公道。
每一个华民专利都要花了30-40万才能够拿下来，10年来，就申请了有1600张专利。领导人说要奖励我，可以拿专利，可以专利作价当你的股本。我傻乎的就拿了1张专利， 然后去作价了。本来我公司5000万，然后我现在呢作价了变成3亿，结果呢到年底我马上要缴税，要缴1亿5千万的税。我说我连卖股票都没卖，但是我就被课税了，但是很不公平。我说那我股票给你押，他也不愿意，他认为我的股票没有价值，把我的所有的财产、房地产、所有的银行存款全部查封、全部拍卖，所以我现在是什么都没有。
德国欧斯纳布鲁克大学驻台教授连芙蓉指出，诉愿是人民最基本的权利，但是从太极门案件来看，不仅不能诉愿，还不能救济。在德国学司法的人是何等的尊严，因为司法代表正义。德国教授讲法律是正义的科学，法律是要帮人民伸张正义。台湾的司法人员却在帮助行政体系没收人民的财产，让他觉得很悲哀。连芙蓉教授强调，人民是永恒的，人民就是一切，人民就是主人，人民就是未来。我们要建设一个好的台湾，让未来下一代不必再受这样的辛苦。希望我们的子子孙孙都成为有尊严的台湾人。接下来我们来听听来自国际的正义声援。
太极门 case is a tragedy because it is the story of the persecution of the innocent, a story that began and goes on since almost a quarter of a century. This means that太极门DZ, especially the young, the rising generation, the promise of the future, have lived their spiritual belief under a circumstance of persecution for since they're coming to the world. I imagine I know nothing of太极门and the太极門case. Yet imagine I am still a journalist. I still work as a journalist. To an ignorant journalist like me in this play, the太極門case would be staggering as well. I would be, in fact, confronted with the case of a spiritual group that became the target of the democratic state or some of its branches or some rogue bureaucrats out of that democratic state, which developed a totally false range of accusation against them, against their shifu and against all these. This fake accusation would go from tax evasion, chiefly, to unbelievable, as it might seem, raising goblins. I would consider the太極門case incredible and worth not an article, but tons of them. So why? Many journalists around the world still ignore this quarter of a century long exemplary tragedy. All this is in fact incredible to me. Massimo just reminded us that太極門case takes place in Taiwan. Taiwan is a democratic country. Taiwan stands for democracy in a very otherwise hot region. So I do think the Taiwan government should repair the misdeeds that some of its representatives, rogue bureaucrats, made toward太極門Shifu and Dizi as soon as possible and reestablish justice. But this doesn't cancel my staggered impression of the category to which I professionally belong, and I call to them to try to redress this injustice, at least speaking the truth on a persecuted group like this. Again, this is an exemplary tale, the太極門case. I do believe that also the media should play a role, a positive role in this story, and the media haven't done that satisfactorily so far. Thank you.
During these years, we have been able to appreciate the international importance of the UN and what can be achieved with the UN bodies in the defense of human rights. Over the past 4 years at the UN, with the help of the organization present here at this conference today, we have repeatedly denounced the discrimination against minorities around the world. We have brought to the attention of the UN the discrimination of religious minorities in China, such as those suffered by the Uyghurs, a member of Falun Gong, and more particularly the dramatic case of the member of the Church of the Almighty God. Session after session of the Human Rights Council, we organized conferences, made written and oral statements, we held meetings with the state delegation, during which the victims were able to make their voice heard. In June 2021, we brought to attention to the UN Human Rights Council the case of the Taiji men and the injustice they suffer in Taiwan. At this Human Rights Council, we denounced how the tax weapon was used to arm Taiji men. In this statement, we highlighted and denounced the unscrupulous means used by the Taiwanese government in its attempt to destroy the Taiji men movement. The use of tax weapons against spiritual minorities is unfortunately common practices in many countries, including France, which finally, after a struggle to denounce this injustice practice, was condemned by the European Court of Human Rights. In September, at the 88th Human Rights Council session, we renewed our appeal for Taiji men. This time, we highlighted the confiscation of this Taiji men place of worship by the Taiwanese government. This is another form of discrimination, just as serious, because the spiritual community cannot exist without a place of worship. Today, the situation of the Taiji men can no longer be ignored in the world, and the Taiwanese government must allow the Taiji men to enjoy their property, their place of worship, and to make their contribution to world peace without worry. The UN mechanisms allow civil society to participate in the improvement of our society, and it is important to continue to speak out against the unfair treatment of Taiji men by the Taiwanese government. In 2009, Taiwan ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. The ICCPR guarantees fundamental rights for every citizen, as well as freedom of religion or belief. The signing of the International Covenant is of paramount importance, but there is still a step to be taken to implement and respect the commitments made when the covenant was ratified. The model proposed by the United Nations is a balance between these institutions, the member state, and civil society. In these three components that ensure that the fundamental purposes established in 1945 by the Charter remain at the heart of the United Nations. Taiwan, like all other states, must find this balance with civil society and grow with it, not against it. It is in fact the struggle of the Taiji men that we support so that justice is done to them, so that their contribution to a better, peaceful, and harmonious Taiwanese society is recognized. Thank you for your attention.
全世界都在看台湾政府怎么处理太极门案。只要太极门的问题没有得到解决，所有太极门弟子及国际社会会一直努力奋斗，广传这个议题，直到案件解决为止，直到所有全世界的苦难结束为止。在此呼吁有权的政府官员，身在宫门好修行，有错就要改，请立即停止人权迫害，停止信仰自由迫害，返还太极门师徒修行圣地，还给太极门师徒清白与公道，以找回台湾的司法正义。感谢线上好朋友的支持与收看，祝福大家平安健康，我们下次见。
sunshine, rainbow.